Good day, everyone. Back again on a Thursday. Had a little bit of snow this morning to deal with, but it is melted off. Derick's Daily Dose here at Northern Spy Golf Club. Today we're going to talk about misses. When we talk about misses, we're going to deal pretty extensively with the golf swing and typical misses that come on the golf course. I'd say there's four major misses, and really why those things take place so that you can diagnose them when they do happen, and then hopefully make adjustments moving forward so that they don't happen continually on the golf course. Golf is all about staying away from the big miss, and today we're going to deal with what those big misses are, and then we're going to transgress it at the end here, and we're going to talk about some kind of on-course non-swing related misses, things you can do on the golf course to avoid those misses. So the first miss in the golf shot that we're going to talk about today is the fat shot. All right, so what is the fat shot? Essentially, the fat shot is when the golf ball is here and your bottoming out point or impact position is behind the golf ball. So all of your energy is absorbed by the turf. The turf gets in between the club and the ball, and from a result standpoint, ball typically doesn't really go very far. You remove a lot of turf and the ball doesn't go anywhere. Sometimes fat shots can be a little bit less severe, where you're hitting kind of right before it, but still in these scenarios, if you typically hit a shot 150, you're probably going to hit these shots 130, 120, so your distance control isn't going to be good. Now, why does this take place? So typically fat shots happen, and again, you could probably pick this up from a lot of the other videos we did, but fat shots happen for one of three reasons. The first reason would be that, that center of gravity is back. You tend to bottom the club out, correctly. Typically when you bottom the club out directly, boom, you're hitting the ball, then you're getting into the turf. So if your CG is back, if your weight's back, if you stay on the right-hand side, and you make a pretty decent golf swing, what's going to happen is your impact point is not going to involve the golf ball. You're going to hit mostly turf, and you're going to get that result. The second piece in why this would happen would be a dip. So if you take a swing and you dip, you get lower, your upper body goes down a little bit. Again, what you're going to do is you're going to put that circle further down. We talked about this in bunker shots, and really what you're going to do is you're going to get into the turf earlier. You're hit the shot fat. One of the biggest things that I see in regards to fat shots, though, is extremities. So a lot of people, when their hands get overactive, that club comes off its intended circle, it gets underneath it, and you're going to hit shots fat. So if your arms and hands become too active, what we'll see here is that if I simply unwind, that club will bottom out correctly. If I unwind and I add my hands, you'll see that club bottoms out. So that's one of the reasons, major reasons why people hit the ball fat. Moving along, the second piece to this, another major miss would be thin shots or top shots. Why does that typically take place? So in a thin or a top shot, you're using that leading edge. That leading edge is getting involved. You're hitting the upper hemisphere of the golf ball. And you could get it mid-hemisphere and that ball will get up in the air, but it's going to go, much further than anticipated. And then if you even get it a little bit further, you're just going to top it. That ball is just going to roll, for a little bit, and it won't really do much. So thin shots, why do they take place? Typically thin shots take place, again, sometimes it's the same reason why the fat shots take place. Thin shots will take place if your weight stays back. So if that weight stays back and we don't bottom the club out, by the time we get up to the golf ball, that club is working its way back up. It's going to be thin. Two would be if you stood up in your golf swing. So a lot of times I see people, they stand up. Now we don't have enough to get that club back down to the ball. We're going to hit the upper hemisphere of the golf ball. And two, again, would be if your hands got a little bit too involved, if there's a level of stopping in the golf swing. So if I get here, my hands stop, and I flip, you can see that club will bypass. And if we're tall enough, not only will it not hit the grass, but it'll start to come back up and it'll hit the top of the golf ball. So, you know, if we want to counteract that, really try and stay down on the golf shot, get your weight to the front side. You should eliminate those top shots. The third is the shank. So as a card carrying member of the Shank Club, I battled them pretty extensively for 10, 15 years ago. They're always kind of around. It's like a plague once they come. If you haven't had them, just count your blessings. Once they do come, it's really hard to get rid of them. But basically what's happening is when you're executing a golf swing, instead of that ball hitting the face of the club, that ball's hitting in here on the hosel, and because of the shape of the golf club, it's going to shoot that ball directly off to the right. So why does the shank happen? A couple reasons why it happens here is, one, we get that weight kind of on our toes, we get that chest going down, on the way back, and now we're closer to the golf ball, we don't have as much space, and when we impact, we're going to involve the hosel. Two could be early extension, and this comes from a lack of movement. And a lot of times, this is why it happens more than once, is people tend to get so scared of hitting the golf ball that they don't move at all. So instead of getting my hips to my target and turning through the golf ball, if my body turns, if I can get the handle of the golf club to move left, the club will start to move left. It's not going to continue out to the right. If I don't do that, if I don't move through impact, and I try and finish my golf swing and my hips get out of the golf swing here, I've lost all my space, and what's going to happen is you're going to present the club, in a position where the hosel is present. Not going to be very good. The other reason is being laid off. So having the club being late or open is another reason. So we get that club, if we let that club butt end get pointed left and that toe gets up and we get it to the top, and what we notice at the top is that shaft's pointed to the left of my target. What happens is on the way down is you're presenting the heel of the golf club, and when I release it, you're releasing the club out. So you're not changing direction, you're presenting this as the first option, and the shank's going to be in place. So again, there are a couple drill sets that you can do to counteract that. Try and keep your weight on your heels. Try and get that golf club to start moving left. I'll put an alignment rod, in the ground and make sure that I'm swinging underneath and to the left. If we do that, you're going to keep that hosel out of the hitting zone. You're going to present the face, and that's pretty good. The last thing is, it could be as simple as setup. So if you're too close to the golf ball, you're presenting this as an option. So get further away. So a lot of times when you get further away, that's going to put more weight on your toes because you feel like you have to reach for it, and that's no good. We talked about that right out of the start. So just give yourself some space, trust it. If you hit a couple thin shots off the toe, you're working your way out of it and you're good to go. The last one is the pop-up. Now these typically tend to happen on shots that are teed up. So driver, 3-wood, anything of that nature. So we'll get this ball teed up here. Typically, the sky ball comes from the fact that, because that ball's on a tee, we want to catch it slightly on the way up. If I turn around and I shift and slide too much through the golf ball, what we're going to do is we're going to start to get that on the way down. And when we get that ball on the way down, if I lean this forward, what you're going to see is that I'm now not presenting the face as an option, I'm presenting the top of the face as an option. The other would be tee height. So if tee height is too high, you can make good golf swings, hit it off the upper crown, and it's gonna pop up in the air. So general rule of thumb for tee height, I don't know the best way to do this, maybe it's here, is you want half the golf ball teed up over the golf club, half of it teed up under. This is suggestive. Any individual can turn around and change tee height. If you top the ball, tee it up. If you hit the ball really high, tee it down. So a lot of it depends on ball position and your tendencies, but general rule of thumb in a properly executed golf swing, if you have half the ball over the crown of the club and half of it underneath, and you hit it on what we like to see in our driver fittings is like a +2 or a +3 in our angle of attack, which means that we're coming into the ball. You know, this is 0, +1, +2, +3, +4, +5. We really want to see that kind of on the +2 or +3 because that gives us our best launch conditions, which is our best launch and our best spin rates. But the key there too is that also when that club starts to come up, now we're hitting the face with the golf ball and not the top. So those are kind of the 4 major misses. They usually categorize them into 5, but I think thin shots and top shots are pretty much the same. They're in the same category. So we did it as 4. Now we get to some on golf course stuff. So stuff I see a lot, some big misses out there is people lose their clubs all the time. When you go to a green with multiple clubs, make sure you're leaving your clubs in your walk path back to the cart, or leave them near where the flag is if the flag's coming out and you got to put it back in. I see oftentimes that people will just drop their clubs and they leave them. Tends to be the same people every time. So if you take a little bit of care and understanding in where you're leaving them, and you make a plan there, you'll tend not to lose them as much. 2, if you have a push cart, you're pushing your push cart along. I see quite often people that don't put their parking brake on. So if you want to avoid having to jump in the pond for your golf clubs, I would definitely use that parking brake that you have. If you need assistance on how that works or where it is on your push cart, I'd be happy to help. And then lastly, would be a course maintenance type thing, but fixing divots. I see a lot. People will go in, or ball marks on the greens, boom, the ball comes in, ball marks on the green. They get in there and they pull in this fashion. They pull with the toe of the ball mark repair tool up. And what they're doing is they're pulling the dirt and the root systems up to the surface. So they're making a nice smoothed out, they're fixing the ball mark, they're making a nice smoothed out area so it's halfway decent to putt over. But if you look at it, it's this pock mark where it's got sand and dirt up at the top level, and the grass won't grow back there the way that bent grass grows. So really what you need to be doing in that situation is you need to be getting in on the perimeter of the ball mark, and you need to be pulling into the center. If you pull that into the center all the way around, what you'll notice is, boom, you have a smooth spot, and 2, it's all green. There's still grass there. You can't see any issues. So a couple common things I see on golf course, big misses that people do, things that you can avoid them. Tomorrow we're going into fitness. We're gonna have a little bit of fun with tomorrow. And then that'll be kind of the series for me. I may do 1 a week, until we open, or maybe through the year. There's some things I want to do, like score entry into the new World Handicap system. I'll walk people through that. Some course maintenance type stuff, maybe some particular issues that come up with everybody. But there should be enough here once we finish tomorrow in the 15 videos that it covers really, as much as I would consider in the golf swing to cover. And while we can get particular and individual to individual, there are certainly things that we can work on one-on-one. You at least have enough tools in the toolbox now and what I would consider a reference guide, that if you get into an issue or you have any questions, you can pop back, check out one of the videos in regards to that topic, and go from there. So thank you for tuning in today. Hope you have a great day, and we'll see you tomorrow.